Hey man, I'm good.
Yeah, man. I'm so glad
Nice
that you
seeing you,
came.
Chris. How are
Yeah,
you?
man. Good to see you. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do
Good to see
this.
you as well.
But before we jump in, I just want to have a couple of announcements. So thanks, guys, for joining the live, and thank you for watching the replay once it gets posted. I'm your host, Chris Hansen from Karate Unity. Welcome to this channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Our content focuses on cross training and other arts and combat sports and tactical combatives to make your base art better. And in my case, it's karate. And for those of you who don't know, Karate Unity is a teaching and learning collective consisting of traditional martial arts, combat sports, and tactical combative instructors. We firmly believe that you can study your base art through the lens of other arts. So before we jump in for our main event, I just wanted to just update you guys on a couple of things that are going on with Karate Unity. So in the beginning of the year, I went to Philadelphia, visited Revolution Martial Arts Academy with Master Michael Solona, and we went to Philadelphia, visited Cage JSA with Coach Matt Briers. It's an MMA club over there. We did some cross training, and then we did a Germany seminar just this summer with Karate Noise. And then finally in Toronto, just recently, Karate Noise came down over here and we did a knife seminar hosted at Taylor Jiu Jitsu. Event, and really grateful for that. And then finally, one last thing, December 2nd is coming up. Hamilton, Ontario, Water Combat Canada with Justin Doherty and Global Martial Arts Academy, Daniel Yeats, and myself, Karate Unity. We're going to be hosting a cross-training seminar focusing on Bunkai, GKD concepts, and cross-training concepts. So watch this space. I hope you can make the event in December. And I am done. So for the main event, here we go. Let me introduce you. Colin, thanks for coming. For those of you who don't know who you are, please tell us who you are briefly and where to find you. Oh.
Broken up.
Yeah, thank you back.
Yes, yeah, we're back. Thank you very much. Thanks, Colin. Organization based in Dallas, Texas. And recently, I've just published and launched my book, Breaking Through the Secrets of Bassai Kata. That's right. And that was done in March in Dallas, Texas, production with the ASO annual banquet. And when Chris talked about review book, I jumped at it and said, let's take a look at this live interview. And I'm very happy to be able to get into the karate community and talk about what makes this book a traditional martial arts book and also a combative book as well. It's not just one kata, that's right. It is about whatever term you want to use. It is about Budo and about the tree with the various branches all together into one glorious, right?
I can't wait, man. But before going further, where could we find you? If you could just basically tell us, and how could we post some training with you as well?
Thank you. I am on Facebook, and there is an upcoming seminar January 20 and 21 in New York. So that's going to be quite exciting. I come back into the US and talk about the concepts related to this book, plus also additional material from the second book that I'm working on.
Perfect. And once I finish this live with Master Colin, I'm going to be putting in links to where you can purchase the book, where you can find Colin, all his content, and you can book some training with it. So let's jump in. And so I want to say, first of all, thank you, Colin, for giving me this opportunity to talk on this channel about your book. And also thank you so much for your book. So here we go, guys. Breaking Through the Secrets of Bassai, the softcover book. I had a chance to actually back over here.
Yeah.
And so,
Thank you for that.
oh, you're very welcome. I'm going to be talking about three takeaways, three things that stood out for me in this book, and I'm going to be talking about it from a cross-training perspective. So the very first thing, so first of all, this book is all about this particular kata called Bassai. I believe it's a Shotokan-based kata, but a lot of different styles have it. Shorin-ryu, for example, has a version of this called Bassai, and so it's one of my favorite katas actually. On page, if you take a look on page 24 to 25, you get a chance to see a nice kata at a glance. So this is the entire kata at a glance. I really like the idea of laying out this in this format. As you get a chance to see pretty much all the transitions. So my question to you is, why did you decide to lay it out like this? Talk to me of what inspired you
Well,
around this
that's
layout.
quite interesting.
Yeah.
When I'm talking with you, I'm actually asking myself, is Chris a traditional karate guy or is Chris a combative guy? And there's no real distinction, isn't it? From you basically are able to put on a traditional hat, you are able to put on a combative hat. But as a traditional instructor, you then tend to look at the connections that you have with your traditional base pattern set skills and how to connect to more tactical skills, don't you? And
Yes.
as a combative guy, basically you use skills, you use flow, you use drills, and then sometimes you can stand back and go, oh yeah, hey, we see this in our pattern. We do this as well with our fundamental drills. The diagram in itself connects with skills that we later show in the book. And this is how we actually train in my dojang. It links, the kata basically is obviously a mnemonic device. It really helps structure our memories and recollections of the drills and the solutions that we come out with. And in fact, that's basically the most intuitive way to actually think about the relationship between kata and also the skills that we later on developed from the kata or the pattern. The pattern itself isn't a limiting framework. It is there to help you expand. And it's not just a mad grab for skills or all sorts of skills or knowledge or applications you see online through YouTube. It's basically there to structure the skills in order to make it efficient for you to actually then as a person use those skills in a dynamic situation. So when you actually take a look at the pattern diagram and the flow, it's actually really quite pretty, and that's obviously what we want to do with it. But the connections that you have beyond it, that's where it's important to us, because basically that allows growth. It allows what you need. So you obviously have a way. Basically, I've got the kata shouldn't limit you from basically using your skills already learned and link it with the phrases of the pattern that you have in hand.
I
So
want
that's
to
where we
I
came
add
from.
something to that. I love the idea of what you said. Mnemonic. It's a mnemonic for applications. And just a quick little example of that. Okay, so my network is all cross trainers, guys from different clubs and systems and stuff. So I'll give you a quick example. So shout out to Scott Taylor Jiu Jitsu. In fact, he just posted up a video on his Instagram of this exact example that I'm just about to say. So Scott hasn't really trained any of the stuff that I've done. He's done some Taekwondo, but a lot of Taekwondo actually, but he hasn't done he hasn't seen for example, Shorin-ryu, right? And so when I showed him, for example, some basic kihons like middle blocks and things like this and applications that I have, immediately, without even question, from a jiu-jitsu lens, he came in and these kind of middle line motions were traps, gi grabs, disbalancing, little shots, lapel grabs, and all of that stuff. So
Yeah.
to your point, it's a mnemonic
Mm.
for application, right? So I really like that
That's
idea
correct.
because that's how I think you could functionally accept all of this,
Mm.
right? It's
Mm.
movement,
I mean,
right?
basically, at one level, any one of us. I mean, how long have you been practicing the martial arts for?
Uh,
Long time, right?
couple of
Too
decades.
long.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. Any one of us that stayed in the martial arts 40, 50 years, we could shit on fundamentals and we could crap on about basic training. But there's no real dichotomy between the fundamentals that we have and also the additional skills that you require to actually make those skills work. In a
Yeah.
live environment, the middle block, the lower block, the upper block, they're all there. It's just that they don't go by those names.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
we basically grow as practitioners. And we shouldn't basically just knock the fundamental training because we don't do it anymore. I mean, as an instructor, I would return back to the fundamentals again and train beginners like that. But beyond that, then I'll say, hey, your trajectory goes very much different from the way that I used to train. I'm not here to lock you into a fundamental training system for beginners because eventually you will not you will not stay as a beginner. Well, fingers crossed, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 No, it's
yeah.
a very good point. I mean,
Mm,
you see, like it's all, when you look at these things, it's a matter of putting in enough time to understand it. It's like when,
mm,
like you said, back to your previous conversation, I think you and I share a very similar duration in martial arts. I mean, you started in
mm.
the 80s,
Yeah,
so did I.
yeah.
I started in 1980,
Mm,
81, right? When I
mm,
was a
yeah.
very young kid, right? And
Mm,
I've seen a lot. I've traveled a lot, and you know,
mm.
at the end of the day, we're all doing the same thing. Martial arts,
We're all on the same team. That's
yeah,
right.
we're all in the same team. Like,
Yep,
seriously, I mean, it sounds
yep,
all airy fairy and all this, but
yep.
really, it is. It's proven. I mean, if you put in enough
Mm,
time, you'll see like
yep.
this. You'll see like when we talk about these other page references, you'll see like all
Mm,
these crash-ins, all these hand movements, these bent arm movements, and
mm,
all these things
yep.
take on meaning based on your application.
Mm,
So, but they're
yeah,
all the same movements. So it's a
that's
great
right.
thing. Um,
Yep.
I I one thing that stood out for me was on page, for example, another thing that popped into mind is I was looking at application number 3, which is steps 9 to 13. So if you take a look
Let me go
at
and check this out.
page 46, okay. So
Okay. Yep.
this particular movement here now, guys, for those of you guys who don't understand kata, these are movement patterns. They're mnemonics.
Yep.
So if you look at the particular movement here, you start off
Mm,
with
mm,
a stance with some sort of bent arm straight line. Oh, sorry, a bent arm
yep.
like shutoke movement.
Yep.
You deliver a low line zuki. Yeah, you deliver a low line zuki and you
Yep.
come right up. So it's a baba.
Yep.
It's a low high.
Yep.
Now
Exactly. Yep.
the application for that I really love to see because so here's the thing that I wanted to share with you.
Yep.
So if you take a look at the application right here, it's
Yep.
actually very preemptive. So when you see Master Colin over here, he's shooting in. He basically touches the hand, makes a trap. Okay, touches the hand, drops a low line shot, and then works his way up. Right.
Post
So over
market. Yep.
here, zones
Yep.
out on the corner, zones out here, traps, and then
Mm,
comes right up for a high line strike. So it's a low high. I
mm,
want to tell
yep.
you right. I want to tell you right now. I have done this exact move
Mm,
in
mm,
Wing Chun. I've done it
yep.
in boxing. I've done it in
Mm,
Savat. I've done it in
yep.
Silat. I've done it in
Yep.
Silat and
Mm,
what's it and JKD when I trained
mm,
with my friends in JKD.
mm,
We have the
yep.
exact same biomechanical movement and the principle that you're doing here, the low high concept,
Mm, mm,
is proven in combat. It's proven in sport.
that's correct. That's correct.
It's beautiful. So
I,
what I really also like too is if you take a look at page 50. If
oh,
you
I'll
take
take
a
a
look at the book,
look at it.
guys, well, once you
Mm, mm,
check out the book on this page over here, there's a bunch of what ifs over here. And
Mm,
kind of categorize these what ifs into three categories. Working in the pocket, changing levels, and working your angular footwork. And when I saw this, when I saw you write this, and I saw all these different scenarios, I'm saying to myself, this guy obviously has tested this. This guy's
mm,
obviously
mm,
worked under pressure. This type
mm,
of discourse that you put in here can only happen under live pressure. You would only understand this under live pressure. So now my last takeaway before I ask
mm,
your question
mm,
is
mm,
when I see this, I I have a big smile on my face because numbers 1 to 3, like I number them off, like working in the pocket, changing levels, and practicing angular footwork. To me,
mm,
all of these things from my journey have been developed through boxing. Boxing has helped me with my
mm,
angular footwork,
mm,
even though it's sport, but it's helped me with angular footwork, right? Muay Thai has helped me to get in and work in that pocket, as well as with clinch boxing, boxing on the inside. BJJ has helped me with that inside game, the tactile
mm.
sensitivity, along with my little exposure to wrestling. So
Yeah.
my point is, these all of these things.
Mm,
I'd like to ask you. So here's my question to you. Um,
mm.
what inspired you to develop these what if scenarios across all of your kata bunkai?
That's interesting. I mean, basically, your one of the questions that you asked me was, how did you actually arrive at
Yes,
this
yes,
outcome?
yes.
And it's funny that a lot of people don't, or more people haven't actually noticed that there's a huge irony that this is a karate book written by a taekwondo instructor. I mean, really, I mean, there's lots of tongue in cheek in the book. There's humor, um, and yeah, I'm surprised that not more people say, "Hey, why is a taekwondo instructor writing a karate book?" Um, for me, the lineage that we have doesn't restrict me from learning more. It doesn't mean that it dilutes my lineage to actually figure out what everybody else is doing. Again, it's not a mad grab for skills across the board. It is a way in which to look for solutions and workarounds and tools that I may not as yet am clear of or have yet acquired, and therefore other people who have the skills would inspire me to look for areas in which I need to actually train and develop. So in terms of my organization in the States, we while I trained under a traditional Taekwondo instructor, we weren't very far away from a karate instructor. So my second instructor is a karate instructor. We learn Kobudo. I also learn Aikido. We do throws, takedowns, lots. You name it, we play around with it. I call myself, well, I used to call myself a poster boy for traditional Taekwondo,
Yeah, yeah,
meaning that whatever skills that I acquire, I basically want to celebrate the traditional framework which basically I learned. And that's important to me because to recognize, respect, and to show gratitude is important for me as an individual. And I'm not saying that all martial artists need to do this, but as I go on, I want to make sure that I respect and be grateful to the teachers who actually have brought me to this place. And I've used my martial arts far and beyond. So when we were in the States, basically solutions and skills were drawn from a variety of people. I mean, my club in itself invited people from Kempo Karate, from Wado Ryu, from Chinese martial arts, and we basically had a mosh pit, and and there was no problem. We were friends.
yeah,
We would actually go out for lunch afterwards, and when we broke up for our pattern training, each one basically would look for their own pattern training group to actually practice their own stuff. But otherwise, we didn't see a bifurcation of that tree. We didn't actually say, "Oh, okay, I'm practicing taekwondo, and 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 that's the only thing that I should look at." I mean, really, I mean, it's like The resources available for each lineage is amazing, but
Yep.
it doesn't mean that it will not benefit from you to assess your capabilities within your own system. Choki Motobu, early 20th century karate expert, right? In
Yeah.
Naha Prefecture. He
Yeah.
says everything is Nai Hanchi.
Yeah.
And Nai Hanchi is like the simplest form. And for many years, for 2 3 decades, I was actually obsessed with that one line. I'm like going,
Yeah.
this guy knows his stuff, yet says Nai Hanchi is the only thing that he needed for fighting in the streets.
Yeah.
And he says, for instance, like the Nai Hanchi Dachi, which basically is the stance for Nai Hanchi, which is like a horse stance. He goes, all you've got to do is twist it one way, you twist it the other way, and it becomes your fore balance, your back balance. And in fact, when I started using that and acquiring mental fluidity and applying that relaxation of the framework onto my own training, then I found, like through Naihanchi, that a simple block can be applied to one side and it could be applied to the other side if I got it wrong. So I could, without too much mental intuition or Jedi mind training, I can fire off
Yeah.
one particular technique and have that as a multi-tool to deal with several different things. And I'm like going, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that was like the first
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
that blew my mind. I'm like going,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah.
you mean that
Yeah.
one block is not for one thing? I'm like, wow, this is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
I've got to do is look for all more of these multi-tools
So
to
check it
help
out.
me as an instructor.
So check it
Yep.
out. This multi-tool
Yeah.
thing. So I just took some notes here. So everything is Nahanchi. I I love a Nahanchi. It's one of
Mm.
when since I was a kid, we trained all the three Nahanchis and we drilled the
Yep.
crap out of it. It
Yep.
was one of my favorite katas. But
Mm.
from a
Mm.
practical point of view, it became fashionable. I'd say within the last
Mm.
10 years or so, people started
Yep.
putting up all kinds of bunkai videos and things like that. And
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
there was a lot of online press on this stuff. So I started to
Yes.
do a deep dive, and I was starting to say, you know what, it makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, in a close quarter situation, you take a look at police records. In my team, I have a lot of tactical combative guys, and
Yep.
some of my best friends are police officer guys and things like that. And
Mm.
um,
Mm.
at a close range, you've got headbutts, elbows, knees,
Yep.
crashes, short punches,
Yep. Yep.
rips,
Mm.
and clinch work. And Nahanchi has
Yep.
all of that stuff, right? So,
Exactly.
so
I mean, just look at that image of yourself just behind you. I
oh
could
yeah,
say that is Naihanchi. I mean,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
yeah because
from
because
my oh, definitely. Yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
all these
So what?
transitional motions. I mean,
Eh, eh,
whether you have your hand
yep.
here or
Yep.
here or
It's
here.
basically yep.
It's
Exactly.
boxers call
Exactly.
it the Philly shell, but it's the
Yes.
biomechanical principle of low high,
Yep.
staying tight, keeping your
Yep.
chin down. I mean,
Exactly.
whatever you want to
So
call it,
what
man.
it is,
Yeah.
that I think Gendai Budo is overly stylized and overly specialized. And the reason being is that the agenda and the goal for Gendai Budo is different from combatives. So sometimes the combatives industry looking at a traditional karate or taekwondo instructor would basically say, why are they doing it this way? It's because we've got two different goals.
Yeah.
The Gendai Budo is looking at your own personal journey and the
Yeah.
development of the self. Combat is basically the reality-based self-defense. They're
Yep.
trying to apply in a live training scenario. So the skills
Yep.
that they are doing and the flow that they want to achieve is much more important for them.
Yep.
Whereas there's no real line between them, is that you can go and swing back and forth and grow from it. So the ability, like for a person like you, would be to take your traditional skills and compare it and juxtapose it with your growing reality-based self-defense abilities. And back and forth, you basically then go, oh, great, what does the traditional framework say? And how does that make my
Yeah.
self-defense get better?
Yeah. That's it.
Yep.
You oh man, you said it
Yeah.
exactly. So it's a translation, it's a reference point. So this leads me to my next point here. We talked about
Mm,
this in our pre-chat, in our pre-talk. If you look at page 47 over here, guys, um, Colin makes a very good argument here. So if you take a look at this, it's a sportive situation, and basically, I'll just read an excerpt here. It says a dynamic encounter, and this is on page 47, Colin, just to so that we're on the
Yep.
same page here. A dynamic
Yep.
encounter against the real opponent or opponents requires skills which are not developed while training for competition. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Outside the
Yep.
arena, there are no rules to govern engagement. A streetwise aggressor hits back in ways far different than an opponent in a martial art class or a competitive match. Okay, I fully agree. But where we talked about earlier is this is this Venn diagram piece. So there's this.
Yep.
So you've got sport on one end, you've got tactical combatives on another, and you know
Yep.
Ian Abernathy has a very nice diagram about all these different segregations. But in my opinion, it's all movement. So
Yep.
a combat sport, like right now, I'm going to tell you right now, people that train combat sports taking on a new breed now, bro. Like, let me give an example.
Yep.
As I talked about earlier, I went to Connecticut recently. Shout out to Matt Briers, to Cage JSA for gloriously welcoming me to his gym earlier on in the year. He has a his channel is Tritac Martial Arts, guys, too. So check out his channel. Great stuff. He has a massive MMA gym. They do tactical combatives there. So okay, so they do boxing, jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, BJJ. They do all these things, striking, grappling, and all that. But they also fuse in tactical combatives, and they have a traditional martial art section too. So they're doing it all, man. And their combat sport helps their tradition. Their tradition helps their combat sport. Their tactical combatives help. It's like cross curricular education. And as a elementary school teacher, I've been doing that for about 20 years. Cross curricular education, folks, is basically studying. You start off by studying a particular subject in a curriculum. You study it, and then at some point, you insert and integrate other subject areas into that subject, right? So, like for example, science will be facilitated by mathematics and statistics. And all of these, so you're studying science, but you're getting facilitation by understanding statistics and all these other things. It's the same thing with martial arts now. Martial artists now, in my opinion, have become jack of all trades simply because they want to tactically understand everything and how it all fits so that they can be better. You know, that's it.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
I want your take on that. What's your take on that?
I mean, we categorize the martial arts simply between traditional sports-based combative sports as well as the reality-based self-defense or combatives, right?
Yeah.
There's no, there shouldn't be any hard line between the three. They're all part of the same tree. But what it is that we should be very clear what we are trying to achieve.
Yeah, of course.
There are a lot of traditional, and I'm not raining on the parade, but there are a lot of instructors who say they can do everything, yet they run a small group. They train once a week, or twice a week even, or 1.5 hours. You warm up for half an hour, you train for maybe 45 minutes, and then you cool down. That's very limited. You can't train like that in any environment and seek to achieve everything from all the disparate lines of training, from reality-based to self-defense or sports. For me, I call myself a traditional instructor because I want to focus on understanding the traditional framework. When we basically had some of our students go into a full contact match several years ago, I had to stop all of my training and focus basically on the competition itself. Timing, strategy, getting the corner man, looking at tactics, and basically coordinating everything under that 3 minutes. And then per the rounds that are available. I mean, it's like that was the thing that basically wiped out my school for 4 to 5 months. You know, you get your student, your fighter ready for the event. You can't do anything else afterwards. And then basically, some people go, "Oh, hey, Colin, can you actually show us knife or gun defenses?" And I'm like going, "Must I really? That's not where my specialty is. If I show it to you, I'll show it to you, and I focus on what I do really good by looking at the problem and the challenge and the dynamic situation. So I don't
Yeah.
show one, I show possibilities in that situation. But
Yeah.
I would always preface by saying, hey, that's not my specialty. I don't really want to do that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
instance, if somebody says, oh, okay, then let's do the knife defense simply. And I'm like going, oh my gosh, you can't do it simply because there's no such thing as simple. I mean, there's tactics that
Yeah.
are fairly, there are few tactics that you actually depend on, but you don't actually have one particular technique to actually stop that knife coming down and slashing your arm. So for
Shout
me,
out!
it's like
We've
I
got some
like,
fans jumping in, saying hi. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining. Uh, it's hard for me to keep track of all. There's a lot of messages coming in, but anyway, keep going. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah. So
yeah,
so I don't actually see that a normal school would have the luxury of doing so many different things. And for me, basically, if I ran a full 7 day a week gym or dojang, yeah,
yeah,
I would love to actually focus in on different things. That would be great, but I don't have that ability. I'm basically a hobbyist, if you want to think about it that
yeah,
way.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But that cross-curricular training, I love that idea. I gain from cross training with really senior practitioners all the time, and that kind of the inspiration and the insight that you actually get from a person who trains 30, 40, 50 years, that is gold. I mean, I bring it back into my own training, and not necessarily to say, oh, okay, my basic block is wrong. That's not where
Yeah,
I'm at. I'm
yeah.
agreeing what even that basically I come into it from a perspective, which is basically the hard whatever I have recent decades, it's always with that book that I started off as a and I've grown since then. And I'm
When you told me that you're on that face, baby. You look great.
expand on the skills, but
Yeah,
the ability to hold on to the skills it's slow. I mean, I'm flexible and performance-wise, physically, I'm really good. But yeah, even with my own content, the assimilation is a little bit more challenging at my age, which is that's so good. My passion is still high. I'm still pushing forward. Really, okay, for the cross-curricular training. So, for instance, like people go, why are you training with this guy? And I'm like, "Hey, there's no problem training at all. There's no problem in basic fundamental drills, so long as you have respect for what you're doing."
I just want to add what you're saying. So a couple of things. I'm at 50 as well. A lot of my students from my school, they log in now. And follow. last couple of years. I've been seeing you grow, and we've been in touch with Messenger and this, that. So, and this is a great way to get to know you better, man, through this book. So, what my point is, where the goal is, I think it's interesting, at our age now, our physical start to change, right? We can't handle like the way we used to hang out, right? So the focus is, I mean, for me, I want to take on it. That's what I get to be massively martial arts, right? So for me, for me, my goals are simple. Now I try to eat clean, I keep training, I keep moving to my abilities, and my goal now is simply to learn as much as I can, and push my body as far as I can. I'm trying to, my activity now is I'm trying to get more self-defense and finesse type of techniques to shut things down quick, given my height and my limit issues. I got a lot of injuries now, right? My viewers know this, but I actually joined the judo club. So I joined my daughter's judo club, and I go there. I'm trying to go there every Monday, and I just heard some guys that go there to the Friday classes and so I just do what I can. And like so, my question to you is, how do you keep up your skills so that you can integrate everything in and be the best instructor you can be for your guys?
The main thing that I've learned in the last 5 years is sustainability. Is that we got passion. I want to put myself up, and everything that I can is to make sure that I stretch up my engagement with the martial arts, and it's really and physical training, physical fitness, and to the longest duration that I can actually get. And that's the most important to me. So it's testing, training weights, all that good stuff. But my goal isn't to be the best martial artist for everybody. I just want to be the best martial artist for myself. And so I'm actually developing myself. And in fact, with my own training group, I've got a small training group. Maybe it's to go to the usually we have about 5 or 6 students. It's all benefit to me to run down and immerse myself into the one pattern. And that's how I came up with this book as well. I would say for about 2 years back. So I started working on the master in 2000, right? So in COVID. I submitted it to the publisher in COVID. But when I had the question in my mind as to what material were we going to be using, it was actually really easy because for the 2 or 3 years beforehand, all my group of 6 or 7 of us, right, were Bassai over and over again. Now, I'm not talking about just doing the pattern again in each class. I'm talking about looking at one phrase or 2 phrases in the pattern and repeating the variations and applications over 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks Let's take that and let's riff on it, right?
Yeah.
And then we basically dedicated library. The dedicated library is a means constantly that when you start riffing on a certain theme, include applications and drills from that theme. In the process of moving to the pattern, you don't have it as a multiplier or a factor of 10 for those policies. So you don't have that 400 or 500. It doesn't continue to exponentially increase by the different patterns that you do. The JK library is like a set of skills and solutions that we basically prefer and gravitate to. So for instance, as you actually go ahead and do an application, and you switch from one side to the other, and then you solve for non-compliance, right? You then draw from the JK library, and you basically then do a shutdown or a shutdown of that person. So you basically go ahead and shut, lock, destroy, take down, and you draw from it. You derivate from the stuff that you already have. So that was really quite important to me. Is that I've got a small group of people who basically have an increasing expertise. So what I'll do is I'll pick from the ones that they know and they like. And of course, if there is a deficit, then we basically start trying that deficit and resolving that. So maybe for the deficit. But it means that for a pattern of 40, you may have drills, for instance, the phrase itself may have 10 to 12 different variations by the attacks that you receive. But at the same time, it doesn't multiply the solution by the attack. You go back to the library and you basically pick for something and that's how you become more efficient. You become more efficient by the access and skills that your group actually develops. You still do that now, but secret libraries, it's skills. And you do that, and basically that's where it becomes difficult for a person to come to my studio and say, oh, okay, what do you all do? And we're going, well, it's like, I'll show you a lesson from this particular form, but it then goes to draw from many, many different skills. And therefore, sometimes in my YouTube videos, it's the stuff that I show doesn't exactly look like it's from the form itself. And maybe it's because the knowledge base is limited. For instance, the pioneer or that person who developed the form used the form to transmit skills and ideas and concepts. But the form itself is not able to do all of what he's doing. The form is only a framework so that another person using that same lens comes back and allows himself to level up by reaching for the skills and the training methodology required for live combative training.
Yeah, no, I agree. I wrote some notes down here. So first of all, in reaction to what you just said, I really like the idea of having that small group study that you have. And I like the idea of taking apart pieces of these movement patterns or katas, whatever you want to call it, and playing with it. And then based on the skill set of the people in the group, you just all this stuff just develops. You know what I mean? And it just grows and then so that's wonderful. Well, the stuff that you're doing, it's funny. It puts a smile on my face because that's exactly what we're doing here. That's exactly what Karate Unity is. I mean, it's nothing special. It's just a study, a hub, and it just so happens that these guys own clubs too, so we have access to their students. And like, listen, one of my black belts that just shout out to Rob.
Hey, Rob.
He just last year he got his Shodan, and one of the requirements is he had to cross train with different guys at different clubs, and they're all my friends. And so we were looking at Nahanchi. I showed him the Nahanchi Shodan, the first one, and we took apart every single piece, trained it for the whole 2 years. We were just doing these things, and they took on different shapes and forms when we were boxing, when we were doing Muay Thai, when we were doing Savat, when we were doing tactical combatives on the inside. We were using the same motions, like for example, you mentioned
What?
multi-tool. So for example, in
Yep.
Nahanchi, you've got this motion here. We got this
Yep.
down here. Well,
Yep.
on this particular plane, okay, it's going
Yep.
down and across, but
Yes.
on an upward
Yep.
plane, I can use it as a destruction.
Yes.
And in the
Yes.
Filipino
Exactly.
martial arts, they have these
Yep.
destructions. Wait, boom, and then I
Yep.
can come in here and grab something and then hit. I mean, it's all the same thing, but it look from this point of view, it looks different. I'm destructing, grabbing,
Well.
hitting. Well, that's a very natural movement, but it
Mm,
still abides by
mm,
this principle,
yes.
right?
Well, one thing that
So
I do have to point out is that while you said that you are nothing special, I need to actually point out what is special about you is that you've actually assessed your training methodology and you're trying to expand and maximize what you've actually learned. So that's basically my thoughts on style. Everybody says, "Oh, I've got a particular style," and what they have understood as style is a stylistic approach to martial arts. In my mind, style is training methodology,
yeah,
meaning that your particular style is a training methodology to
unique.
get you to a, a technical proficiency, and from there to then assess what you need to grow as an individual and as a black belt.
Yeah,
So, for instance, like what you do, you are basically sitting back and go, "Oh, hey, my training methodology needs to include this or that," and also to actually challenge my student to expand on his ability to understand that fixed pattern set and change his level, change the development, change the basically the environment and the in which he's actually facing, and that is really powerful. And in that way, people then actually are able to practice that traditional style and still celebrate it as they expand into the black belt area. Yep.
100%. I want to add
Yep.
to that, like back to your book. So if we look at page 48 and 49, these
Okay.
applications here, guys, is golden. It's really like now when I say this, I don't mean it in a derogatory way. It's
Yep.
common to so many, and I mentioned this earlier. It's common to
Yep.
so many
Yep.
different martial art
Mm,
activities. So, for
mm,
example, this particular thing over here, where Sensei is checking the lead hand and dropping
yep.
levels down here.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sensei Mark Borsboom out there. Yeah, he's one of my
Hey, Mark.
one of my my good friends. He's an Aikido ka, and his dad's a judo guy. I think I can't remember how high he went up. I think to brown belt, and he's one of my
Mm,
students too. So he's cross training in a lot of things.
mm,
Mark, if you're listening to this, you know that what you just saw here is really hard to see because when you
yep.
drop levels and you're touching hands here, you're
Yep.
basically
Yep.
disappearing. This hand's gone
Yep.
now
Yep.
from that line of defense here. You can't really see where
Mm.
what this is doing. So it's beautiful. And as you mentioned
And
earlier
and
about changing
and it
levels,
can be applied. It can be applied to both the left hand and the right hand, which is what
yeah,
the facing pages are
yeah.
all about. So
As
this
you
is your left hand.
yeah,
This is your right hand.
yeah.
Yep.
And I'm
Yep.
telling you, like if you look at so okay, here's the application, but now when you play with this stuff, you're gonna
Mm,
discover all these different changes, and that's how you talked about all those
mm,
what ifs. But my
yep.
point is,
Mm,
if you can play and discover, and that's great.
yep. Yep.
But in my opinion, if you have
Mm,
experts, for
mm,
example, guys that I wouldn't say experts, but guys that
mm,
focus on this
mm,
particular real estate right here. So
mm.
trapping, shooting in, changing levels.
Yes. Yes.
Like boxing, for example. Okay,
Mm,
yes, it's a
yep.
sport, and yes, it's rules and this and that. But
Yep.
if you want to train that attribute, that tool
Mm,
development
yep.
of slipping, going down, and going up,
Definitely.
learn boxing, and
Definitely.
then
Definitely.
take that and insert it into
Yep.
your karate game. And
Yep.
that's what I think you are doing,
Yep.
and
Yep.
kudos to you, man. You know,
Definitely. Yep. Yep.
like I wanted to talk about this quick thing. I mean, you know, one of the criticisms that guys like us do, and I'm saying guys like us because
Yep.
uh, a lot of the guys in my network, you know, we're cross trainers,
Mm,
but we
mm,
stick to one particular style. Like we've got belts in
mm,
one particular style.
mm.
We've got loyalties to our teachers and this and that, but we
Of
cross
course.
train. The criticism though is
Mm.
at what point do you do it? And this jack of all trades things, master of none, why? Why bother? Well, I'll tell you, here's my take on the why. I think it's extremely important to be a jack of all trades after you have a good base in a particular art. Then you have to start looking. That's where that cross-curricular piece comes in. You have to start looking and studying with other people, because then it's a diagnostic. Then you start to see where all your holes are. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So my question to you is okay, you've developed sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
What is quite interesting is that I would like to actually talk a little bit about like these old masters
Yes,
who
yes,
have
yes.
phenomenal genius versus some combative instructors. Some combative instructors basically they pressure test and train their students. And from my observation, there's two scenarios. One is that they pressure test their students, and those students rise up in skill very, very fast,
Yes.
but they hit a ceiling, a low ceiling, equally fast that they can't punch through. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one of my opinions. I may be wrong, all right, but that's what I see. Versus you see these old traditional gurus or senseis that they have phenomenal technique and phenomenal ability, and it's not capped by that kind of ceiling. And one way we need to actually understand what is happening here and why does the method of training work like that to actually create that kind of lag in that progress. Because basically I would want for my own skills to actually grow in time. I don't want to limit myself, and I don't want to continue doing what I did in the 1980s and get stuck in the 1980s, right? Like some karate kid. But I
Yeah.
want to be able to grow and have skills that are commensurate with my time in the martial arts, right?
Yeah.
The only way to do that for me, for my point of view, is to actually include that cross training, but always benchmark it back to the fixed pattern set, and then to basically assess your ability to read the three-dimensional environment, to actually
I'm
play
getting
with the
comments
opponent.
coming in. I want to just make sure that these
Yeah,
guys are respected here. 1 second, sorry. I just want to make sure
sure.
that
Go
let's
ahead.
see here.
And also, apparently, the
Yep.
audio is a little bit choppy. So I do apologize to everyone who doesn't get a very clear audio. Hopefully, we will have the audio clear when we actually upload this into YouTube.
Oh man, it's hard for me to. Sorry guys, it's hard for me
Sorry.
to see all these comments here. I don't know, Colin, can you see these
I,
comments? Because I can't see these
I,
comments
I
coming
just see
through
a
very
lot of
carefully.
forehead. I just see a lot of forehead, Chris.
You see my forehead? Okay, hold on. I'm trying to see all
Where's
these
my
comments coming
cap?
through.
I don't have a cap. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, anyway. Well, no, Watto Canada just commented. Bobby Nelson from California just commented, but I can't. I'm just looking at my phone here. I
Well,
can't see the comments. Anyway, sorry guys.
yeah.
But now, man, I get it. What was
Yeah.
your last point again? I just wanted to respond to that. Just repeat that last point again.
I have no idea what I said. Basically, I was comparing like the reality
Oh
based
yes. I remember.
combative instruction peer testing versus
Yeah.
like this ongoing lifelong learning.
Yeah.
That's something in which I think cross training actually helps you.
See.
Like you were saying, you're going to judo.
Yeah.
Everything is about kuzushi, mate. It's basically
Yeah. Yeah. That's
unbalancing
it.
the opponent.
That's it, man.
Everything
That's
is
it.
about your finesse, your
Yeah.
ability to read you're in three-dimensional environment. Everything is that. It's not about fundamental techniques. I can do that. I've done that. I've done that for 30 years, actually
Yeah.
40 years now. But
No,
I want to be able to then punch through that boundary and learn these techniques, which basically are what much more veteran practitioners use like that. That's important to me.
here's the thing. It's like
Okay, let's
any.
see. Okay, how's that? I can read the comments. How's that? How's my reading instruction? My reading glasses.
Beautiful, but I could see the
Oh
ring
man,
light
no, the
reflection on
comments
your.
have gone.
The comments
Yeah,
are
the
gone. I
comments
know.
are gone
I
now.
have. Hold
Sorry
on. I
guys.
have. Let's see. If I click on the comment button here, sorry guys, I'm used to the I'm not used to this new chat feature in this new go live together. So I'm really new to this, but I'm trying to see if I could find the message thread here.
Bring it up on YouTube? Would I be able to see your YouTube channel?
I don't know. Check it out. But anyway, to your point, I'm thinking the reaction that I had is what you said is like, okay, so you have guys that masters that have dedicated their time into one particular discipline versus guys that have, like, say, MMA people, right? But see, here's the thing. The criticisms by traditional martial artists to the MMA people, they don't understand really because they haven't really done it. And that's my opinion, right? Having done both, I have mad respect for both sides. So now it's a matter of balance. So for example, like I'm telling you, man, MMA is not what people think. MMA now is a concept now. It's not a sport. It's a concept. It's a conceptual training method. So, like, for example, a shout out to Cage GSA. These guys, they spend a lot of time on one particular aspect before they mix it. You know, like they'll spend a lot of time on striking. Then they'll integrate striking to grappling. Right? They'll isolate grappling, and then they'll bridge the gap between striking and grappling, and then they'll grapple to strike. You know what I'm saying? But they won't do any of that unless they've spent enough time. And so they'll get boxing coaches in there, they'll get wrestling guys in there, and they'll train like you won't believe, right? But whereas before, you know, in the primitive UFC, you had a grab bag of guys that just came in, and it was just a hosh mosh, right? You know, but now it's more focused, you know, more focused training and very traditional. If you look at MMA, it's very traditional, right? But a lot of people would not agree with that based on the forums that I've spoken to.
What I would say about MMA is that the training and the fitness and the approach to the training is fantastic. However, with the traditional methodology that I see and with the traditional pattern, sometimes you can actually have benefit towards performing a technique better. Reduce risk for the technique, reduce risk for the opponent. For instance, like I see like a connection, like when you actually have a leg connection, the leg breaks. I'm like going, why did the leg break? The leg broke because this person doesn't know the effect of actually kicking with that part of that shin. Maybe it's not conditioned enough, but full 100% towards another leg and making connection at that point on that leg with the lower part of your shin is not the wisest thing. I mean, I would never do that because I've actually made that connection before, and at a lower power output, it still hurts. Whether or not I'm conditioned. So for me, basically, there are takeaways from that traditional training if you do it right and you basically have the ability to have that cross-curricular effect and flow-on effect to your MMA. I think that is a really amazing situation to actually have.
And that's why a lot of these MMA clubs now are merging all of these methods together. Like seriously, like I said to you, in Connecticut, Matt's club, he's got a section of his club where there's traditional martial arts. He's got a section where there's combat sport, and he's got a section where there's tactical combatives, and he's fusing all of them together, right? So I mean, this is very healthy. But I want to move on to my third takeaway in the book because we're at the hour mark now, and I want to move on if that's okay. Sure. I really liked. So let's go to page 108. So if you take a look at page 108, so guys, over here we're looking at movement number 40, 41, and 42 in the kata. Okay, and it's basically a shuto. You see a shuto, and you're stepping off, and you're doing another shuto. And what I really liked was the fact that you interpreted this as a throw, as a sweep, right? And it was very interesting.
Actually, Actually, other people have interpreted as a sweep before as well. I think I have seen the application as a sweep. What the difference here is that my assumption is that that sweep fails.
Yes. And then you have
That's the difference.
all
Yeah,
these if thens and stuff, which I'm going to get into, but
that's correct.
I just want
Yeah,
to make a connection because I what you do over here is brilliant. How you're making contact with the leg, you're
yeah,
bumping, you're shooting in, and you're
yeah.
throwing. And if this fails, you
That's right.
sweep the
Yeah,
other leg. And
yeah.
my sensei who passed away in
Mm,
2015, he would always tell me, and this is I only started discovering this near the end. The founder of this system here, Danisi Kempo, um, he would tell me that. So the connection I'm making here is to his stuff. He says stances should be looked at as spears. So when you look at
mm,
stances like spears, they're
mm,
piercing through the opponent, breaking balance to do destruction and
mm.
and taking
Yeah.
the guy off. When you need that structure and foundation so that you can use it this way. And so when I see your
Mm,
applications here, I had a big
mm,
smile on my face, but more particularly when I saw this, I was
mm,
going,
yes.
oh, bro, this is brilliant, right? This is
Yeah.
brilliant. So,
Yeah.
guys, when you take a look at this, this is a
Yeah.
flow chart that
Yeah.
basically gives you a if then scenario. If this, then this. If it fails, and so here's
Mm.
my question. I want to know, how did you come up with this?
That's how we train.
Yeah,
Basically, a plan B assumes that there's a failure at any one part of the process.
yeah,
So, for instance, basically, when we do something that your opponent is going to actually be a non compliant opponent, he is going to shut you down.
yeah,
And we need to look for workarounds. We need to look for solutions around that. The
yeah,
solution basically comes from the pattern or from another pattern, or from, if I can't actually find it from my JDK library, from some other stylistic approach to that problem. And when we actually take a look at it, then it's an if then what, if then else logical discourse
yeah,
that applies to your application training.
yeah.
So it's like good judo. Basically, good judo from
Yes,
the start, a person learns two throws, forward
yes,
and backward. So I
yes,
throw the opponent backward, and if the person opposes, I'm gonna switch and I'm gonna basically use that first throw as a kuzushi, so that then basically I tip him over to the other side.
yes,
The flow chart basically tells you that nothing that you've learned in the traditional framework is wrong. It just needs to be applied to a live opponent. And that's what other better practitioners, or more adept practitioners do. They play with technique. And the technique doesn't stop them, the technique empowers them to shut down the opponent.
yes,
Um, it's basically recognizing that the workarounds in your training make it live and dynamic, and go beyond the limitations of the mnemonic device of the kata, right?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
the training methodology then needs to assume that the if then else situation has to occur at every drill that you use and every application or skill that you attempt to actually learn.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
the flow chart basically is kind of like an academic or intellectual way of showing it on the book itself. Again, it is a book; it's not a video, but it basically is a way of saying you've got to play with the opponent to the point where the opponent is overwhelmed and unbalanced.
Bingo.
So I'm going to shout, push, pull, or set him up by doing repetitions of a particular attack, in order to keep that opponent off balance, in order to take advantage of that off balance and shut him down. Boom,
I wanna
easy.
make a connection to that. So this is beautiful. So what this like I had like light bulbs go off when I saw this, right? So guys, when I was
That's nice.
reviewing this book, as an experienced martial artist, and I don't mean that in a egotistical way. I mean, I put in a lot of time on the map on this, and when I was looking through this popped into my head, and before I read the discourse and the explanations, the first thing I'm thinking is this guy came up with this simply because he's been playing with stuff. And so he's been playing with it, and things went wrong. So he's basically recording his mistakes and how to navigate around this. And then, true enough, that's what it is. And then, true enough, I'm talking to you about this, and this is what you're telling me. And hey, bro, I believe you, because that's how you train, and that's what happens. You know, like
that's how you do. Yeah.
So here's the thing. My connection to this is, guys, all of these traditional martial arts, okay, that reside in the form of Kihon and Bunkai, okay, and Kata, Kata and Kihon, okay. To me, they are loaded with biomechanical principles and templates for movement. And so therefore, when you train it in this kind of flowcharty kind of way, which is basically sparring, randori, whatever you want to call it, this is gold for your training. And you develop all these different ways to train. So let me just tell you, judo, wrestling, Muay Thai, clinch, for example, those three activities that I just mentioned, this kind of heightens all of this stuff, because when you're doing a sport like this, sport like these, judo, wrestling, and Muay Thai, for example, especially clinch work, it's problem solving, man. Whoops, I lost you there.
Yep.
You're back.
We're back.
Yeah, it's problem solving, right? To your point,
exactly.
just recently in October, shout out to Coach Martin from Karate Noise, one of my German brothers. He basically so we did a lot of training here in the dojo, this particular dojo here, when he was here in Toronto, and we did a drill. I'll break it down for you. It's very simple. We did a drill where we had a concealed knife, okay, and I didn't know this, and so we were doing like all kinds of self-defense reactions, and we're going back and forth, back and forth. So I would give him some sort of an attack or whatever. He'd disarm me and just go, and then, okay, repeat, right? At any point in time in this melee, you deploy a knife and you start stabbing and this and that. That changes the dynamic completely. So now you have to you have to like start controlling the knife. You have to break balance. You have to strike. You have to use all your tactics, but in a very condensed, very short kind of time frame, right? Which, in my opinion, that's what this is teaching you.
That's it.
That's what this is teaching you, right?
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So
then you're going to be assessing your physical location, your three-dimensional space, all the obstacles. You're going to be feeling for the knife. You're going to be looking at his face. And basically, for you as an opponent, you're trying to pretend like you don't have the knife, but there are basically tells that you're trying to look for. I'm not, combative instructor, so I don't have to actually. I don't feel the pressure to actually do this, because as a business, basically, all I do is focus on the traditional. But really, the person is there to shut you down, and you're trying to ask yourself, what next? What happens when that knife comes out? I mean, basically, then you're going from the unarmed to basically defense against a knife, defense against a gun, and then you're playing with different things. And for me, like as a traditional thing, the difference, and you can basically let me know how you actually approach knife training. My pleasure with training the knife is that I got to look for the simplest tactic that can be repeated for the least common denominator of my student body. For instance, I don't want to be playing with these puños because we don't have those skills. Knife. I may be pulling out a pen, be using a magazine, but one of the things in which we actually focus in on is basically striking and hopefully immobilizing, slowing down that knife hand, then going for basically a control and a takedown.
Yeah.
Because basically we don't train that enough to actually say, oh, okay, great, I've got these skill sets to play at the knife with this engagement and the melee of exchanging hand techniques with a guy or with a blade, right? So I want to seek to either disengage and escape, or basically cover the gap and basically hold that knife, slow the weapon, and
we did that a lot in our Toronto seminar. And one of the things that Sensei Martin told us was pretty much the same thing. I mean, he's got a ton of experience. He's a police officer in Germany, and he's seen a lot, and he's also been attacked with a knife. So Same thing, you got to keep the technique simple,
Mm.
crash in,
Yeah.
run if you have to, and all these kind of things. But
Yeah.
I am no knife expert, but the way that
Yes.
he taught it,
Mm.
was basically, he says, look, you need to have a go-to
Yes.
replicatable type of movement pattern, that you
Yeah.
can replicate
Exactly.
under pressure, because
That's correct.
a lot of these fine motor skills get shut down
Yes.
under stress. It
Yeah.
just does.
Yeah.
I mean, we become very
Yeah.
dumb when we're stressed.
It it's
Yeah,
not only that. It's also what you do is you actually descend to the lowest point of your training, right? So
yeah,
you then are depending on things which may not necessarily work in that circumstance, which is
yeah,
much more dangerous, I think.
yeah,
So the rules of thumbs and the guides that you actually have in that duress is actually really quite important. So
yep,
rather than
yep,
trying to
yep.
pull out a head high kick or basically kind of like a one shot, one kill kind of punch and trying
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
think
yeah,
that that's going to save you, that's really quite dangerous, I think.
yep. Well, brother, I want to say thank you for this book.
Thank you.
I treasured it. I appreciate anything that comes my way. A lot of my friends out
Thank
there
you.
that's watching, I want to thank you too for sending me your books too. I've studied them all, man. My friend that just came down here,
Mm,
Sensei Martin, he's looked at my library, and it's a well used
mm,
library. I got sticky notes everywhere.
that's great.
I really appreciated this, guys. I want to tell you right now. If you don't study if you don't study this particular kata, it really doesn't matter.
Well,
This particular book
yes.
gives you a roadmap to study, right? So,
Yeah.
like, some
It's
finishing thoughts here, Colin. If you can tell, like, what was your mission behind this? Where can we find this book? And some closing thoughts on this.
my closing thoughts is that the book is on Bassai Dai, but is it really?
Right.
The great work that's done by Karate Unity is matched by any other person that's expanding and exploring what the traditional martial arts system can achieve. You can specialize, you can do everything. 3K type training, Kihon Kata Kumite, is not bad training. It's great. I actually go back to 3K all the time.
Yep.
Yet, if I want to specialize and do something, I want to make that be my platform to expand from. That's where it's at, isn't it? It's like I
Yeah.
should not be limited to a particular training set from 30 to 40 years ago. I want to be able to explore and experiment and grow as a martial artist, which is what you are doing through your podcast, through your website, through your YouTube channels. I love what you're doing. I
Thank you.
do advocate for anybody who's saying, "Oh, does Chris actually do traditional martial arts?" Yes, of course. It's just that he's not training you in traditional martial arts. If you ask him to train a traditional system, that's where you could probably then get more similar comparisons if you wanted to actually focus on that. And that's what I do. I mean, basically, it is that I use my martial arts to assess the opponent. The opponent is live. It's going to be a dynamic situation. You don't really know what's going to happen under duress. The tools that you have need to be applied easily if you get it wrong. And if the opponent shuts you down, you need to actually work around those scenarios.
Yeah.
We basically play with a randori, so we actually power down the exchanges from the sparring. So yes, we actually do full contact, we do semi-contact, but the most that I gain is where I actually do a very light contact,
Yeah. Flow
but
sparring.
that's correct,
Yeah.
use the skills that I actually depend on: eye strikes, neck strikes, groin strikes, knee strikes, takedowns using the crank. I use that using in a randori or a very light contact scenario in order to practice against an opponent who is happy to shut me down on the live. But obviously, blind me, I want to be able to, see see after the training session. But that's important to me. I want to be able to put myself in the place where I'm learning what those karate pioneers, the taekwondo pioneers want us to learn from those fixed pattern sets. I don't
Yeah.
want it to actually limit me. I want to be able to then set the bar for other students, other practitioners to expand from, which is
Yep.
where my passion is. I mean, it's like that's what it is for me. That is fun. I
Yep.
can go into another studio and say, okay, great, I can do front flying kicks. Sure, I can do lower blocks. I can do breaking. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can do
Yeah.
that because that's
Yeah.
part of what makes it fun for me. But where I look at, I want to be to use the framework as a way to understand the opponent and to actually organize my thoughts of the training for that opponent.
Yep.
Better individuals such as yourself, or that gym which has the co-curricular training, the
Yep.
cross-curricular training.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, total respect to that those gyms and the dojos and those instructors that actually work in those gyms. They are actually stressful. They're fun and stressful at the same time. I'm not there because I don't have the student base, but total support for both the traditionalists as well as those people who see that training methodology and the style that you use to actually go beyond traditional patterns enriches everybody's life and basically links us to the great tree that has different branches in different lineages and styles, but where you actually have like really good practitioners. All of them have very overlap.
100%. Oh, you're jamming here. You there? I don't know what happened here. You there, buddy? Hello, Colin. I think I lost you. You might want to leave and come back again, maybe. I don't know if you can hear me. Try leaving and coming back if you can. Whoop. Yeah, you can come back again if you like. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Thank you, brother. I
Just
really
jammed up.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Would you like to close off?
Yeah, man. Guys, thank you for watching. There's still some viewers there. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you for thanks to all your fans, Colin, and thanks to my guys watching, to all my students and Crowd Unity fans. Guys, keep training, keep learning. I will put links to Master Colin Wee's book in the description. Give me a couple of days. I'll reformat this video and get it all ready to go with all the links and things like that.
That sounds great.
I'd also what I'm please follow Master Colin Wee. I'm going to leave links to his socials, his websites, and then follow him. See where he's going. He's going to be going to New York soon, so hopefully you guys could check his seminar out. And I want to come see you in Australia one day, brother.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
We just need to keep you away from the sharks and the spiders.
Yeah, man. All right, man. Chris Hansen signing out. Oh yeah, I have to get up and do a bow. All right. Us. All right.
Thank you.
Good morning. Good
Thank you
night.
very
Good
much,
evening.
guys.
Bye, guys.
You all
Talk
take
soon.
care. Keep training. Be well.
Us. Okay, man.
Us.
All right. Let's see.
Switch this off.
Hope I can get this. Okay. Boom. And stream. Okay.